Disrespect.
Yeah, I mean, what are you actually saying, Layla? Are you saying black people have to have security around when they all get together because some shit's gonna happen?
Right.
I mean, that's essentially what you're alluding to. Is like, hey, you can't have a big predominantly black event without anticipating a problem. That's essentially what she's saying, right?
Right. Someone who comes to mind, this person, she was in the documentary, and she had stated that she knew David Mack from somewhere, someplace, and she was at the person is Leila Steinberg, and she said she was at the party at the museum, and she saw David Mack there.
Yeah.
What do you think
And
about that?
she's well, I think it's funny that she's trying not to laugh the whole time she's saying it. And I think it's very interesting that she never says any of this shit for 20 plus years. She didn't do anything when it mattered, right?
Right.
And, I think her claim is like, well, I was afraid because he was in prison. Oh, wait. So you wait until he's out of prison? You're afraid when he's in prison, but you're not when he's out? So, I mean, the whole thing is so ridiculous. Where's the receipts, Layla? Where's the photos of you and Mack, since you say that you were like his, trainer at the gym or something to that effect? Where's the receipts? Where's the photos of it at any of these events? Right? There's all kinds of photos of everybody else.
Right.
Pictures were very popular, and you can find just about everybody else in a photo. Where's the one with Mack? Talk to guys like, Reggie. They're going to tell you what the real is.
I'll just play it for you.
At the event at the Peterson Motor.
They were all there.
Shit.
Did you see David Mack and Perez at the event at the Peterson Motor?
They were all there. Yes, they were there.
Because the LAPD now have sort of come up with a whole other theory.
Outside of the police.
Yeah.
I'm sure they did. What's their theory?
That a gang member called Poochie shot and killed Biggie.
Really, it doesn't matter who pulled the trigger, although I wouldn't agree with that. But what I would say is any gang member that was to shoot or kill Biggie could have only done so with police involvement and support. It would have been impossible. They were everywhere. You don't have an event that's a party after the Soul Train Awards, and especially in LA, and there's that many black people, and you think the police aren't everywhere, they're everywhere. It doesn't work that way. So there has to be compliance. They were complicit in everything that happened that had to do with death row. I knew David very well. I was actually quite shocked when I saw David and he was in LAPD. Very surprised. And he came with me to the video shoot when we were doing Mack Mall and Ray Love's video.
She's saying she was David Mack's trainer. At least she could have done, at least in my opinion, provide a photo with her and David Mack if she knows him so well. But yeah, they were at the Peterson. He was an LAPD officer. What is your response to what we just saw?
Well, what I would do is I would take that bit by bit, because I think she's full of shit. To be honestly, she can't even keep a straight face. And here I'm laughing, but really, I mean, she's talking about this, and you look at some of the characteristics of her response. The body linguistics, and start to understand things about what people do when they're kind of just throwing shit out there. But here's the thing: take everything that she said bit by bit. First, she says that, yeah, they were there. They were all there. Well, who's all? Now, was it just David Mack and Rafael Perez? Is it David Mack, Rafael, and others? Because when you say they were all there, all right. So first of all, we need clarification on that. Two is, how do you know? Did you know Rafael Perez? Did you know the other individuals aside from Mack that you're claiming that you did know? So who are these other people? And then she says, yeah, I knew David Mack clearly before he was a cop, because says I was surprised to hear when he was a cop. And then I began to I was surprised to see that he was a cop. And then I allowed him to come to these video shoots, or I invited him to these video shoots, right? And then she says he started doing security for all these other rappers. Where's the corroboration for any of this, right? There's no corroboration from any of this. because Reggie most certainly would have known if this was all death row related. He would have known who was working security at these places. And he's made it very clear that he's never laid his eyes on David Mack in his entire life. And, you know, we certainly don't have anything whatsoever to corroborate anything that she's saying. So I do think she's just, and again, this is a Broomfield production. Right?
Right.
And we already know what happens before they start filming on a Broomfield production. Because we saw that with Gene Deal. Right?
No.
So this is manufactured, it's orchestrated, it's done so that the Broomfield can go out there and promote his bullshit. Yeah. And so this is more of that. But just take the things that she says bit by bit, and none of it can be corroborated. If David Mack was working with all these other rappers, how can we? Where's their voices? Where's their attestation to the fact that, yeah, he was always around? Because everybody at death row says we don't have a clue who he is. He was never around. Kevin Hackey tried to say he was around, but ultimately then decided, okay, I'm bullshitting. Hey, sorry, Reg. You know, Kevin Hackey was the only one that ever said that, and then he recanted. So you've got nobody. You've got all these people around death row for all these years. Not a single one of them saying that they had ever laid eyes on David Mack. Nobody from Mob Piru knew him. So it's all just this urban myth that people want to keep, you know, attaching themselves to. People like Leila, and she ought to be ashamed of herself. And this is an indictment of her character too, to just be spouting off bullshit like that and accusing innocent people. Now, Mack's not innocent in the sense that, yeah, he's a corrupt cop, he's a bank robber, but accusing people of murder with no factual evidence whatsoever.
Right. Let's not forget it's a Broomfield production / assistance with RJ Bond production.
Yeah, probably.
Yeah.
This goes back to what Leila was saying. I don't know if it's Leila, however you pronounce her name.
Right.
Cops all over the place. There was no cops there at all. Cops had already come and gone because of another shooting that had happened on the street around the corner. But those cops had got there. Shooter's gone. There's no evidence of a crime. Everybody's, you know, there's nothing to do. So they continue their patrol duties. The cops don't get called back until other 911 calls start coming in and saying that somebody had been shot, which was Biggie. That's when the cops all, you know, began to respond back to the Peterson. But there was no cops at all in the area at the time that it happened. And the Peterson had hired private security. Some lady named Kayla Radford, I think was her name. Carla Radford. Anyways, she was in charge of the event, and she hired private security. And that was the security that was there that night. In fact, there's quite a bit of video footage from this night, both inside and outside. You don't see a single uniformed officer anywhere. Not at all until the shooting takes place, and then you see a black and white pull up on the surveillance camera. So her idea that there's cops all over the place, or you don't have an event like this without cops all, I mean, it's just her ignorance. The cops weren't asked to be there, and they have other things to do throughout the night than just park outside the Peterson Auto Museum because there's a big event.
Yeah. I feel like that's such a stretch. What I mean by that, when I hear like Leila, we just heard say, you don't have this kind of sort of party with so much black folk, black people. I don't know. I just kind of take it the wrong way. I honestly take it in a very like disrespectful.
Yeah, I mean, what are you actually saying, Leila? Are you saying black people have to have security around when they all get together because some shit's gonna happen? Right. I mean, that's essentially what you're alluding to. Is like, hey, you know, you can't have a big predominantly black event without anticipating a problem. That's essentially what she's saying, right?
Right.
And but you know, if there is a big event like this where you do need security, you can call and request, hey, can you guys have a black and white unit assigned to this? Because that happens all the time in LA. If there's going to be some type of big event, the promoters of that event or the organizers of the event can call the LAPD and say, hey, would you mind having a detail assigned to this? but they never did that. There was never a request for that. So of course the LAPD is not going to just, you know, we're stretched thin as it is,
Yeah.
you know, and so they're not going to assign people to just sit there all night unless there's a need for it or a request for it. And then they'll put additional people on. They'll assign people that night in order to provide security.
Right.
But that night it was all private security, and there was no cops around at the time that the shooting took place. And so,
right.
no, there was, listen, you got to remember, this place was overcrowded. That's why it got shut down. There was too many people there, and everybody there was just bombing. You know, people were drinking and partying and dancing and music blasting. I mean, everyone's having this incredibly good time, and there's not a single problem. Not a single problem throughout the whole evening until things get outside. And so clearly, in hindsight, it's like, you know, the security inside was adequate for what happened, and it was private security. It wasn't until things happened outside where, you know, in hindsight, you kind of wish that, you know, had a cop been posted there, would that have dissuaded the shooter from doing what he did? If there had been a black and white parked outside, you know, had there been a black and white parked outside. And so for her idea that there was cops everywhere, and you know, you don't have this type of things without cops. Well, if there's a bunch of cops there, and especially black and white sitting out on the street, that shooter most likely is like, fuck this ain't the time to do this. I'm not going to get away with this. And so her logic kind of works against herself, doesn't it? Because if there's a bunch of cops, then that shooter probably thinks twice about what he's about to do.
Right, exactly. That's a good point.